Ashwini, this is
Hi.
gonna be a great ocean. I know, I mean, I never met you, but I get a really great vibe from you.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I love your country. I had to say
Super. I
that.
love my country too.
Okay, look. So we believe that everybody's an ocean, and and to really get to know somebody, you have to cross the ocean. I'm gonna use the Seven Seas interview, which is like this kind of format that I created for the London International Awards. Normally, like our objective is like to bring to the surface like personal stories of
Mm-hmm.
anecdotes, memories, things that like they are off the path,
Right.
things that you normally don't share in within the advertising industry. And it has worked so far. We had like some crazy stories. So I hope like to get some from you that.
I hope so too.
Okay, let's go with the first question. Jean Barret is recognized as the first woman to have completed a voyage of circumnavigation of the globe in 1774. Now, she was born in an age of exploration that was reserved almost exclusively to men. But
Right.
she found a way to break the rule and write her own destiny. The story has it that the French Navy didn't allow women on his ship back then. So when her lover and former employee, Dr. Philibert Commerson, was hired as a chief naturalist for the voyage, they make up a plan. And
Mm-hmm.
here was the plan. Jean Barret would become Commerson cabin mate and assistant. They will call her Jean, like her father.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to meet like this woman right now in front of you, standing in front of you, and she knows that you work in advertising, what would you say to her?
Wow. If I were to be standing in front of her, I think I'll say, what was your motivation?
Mm.
Because when we are creating brands for people, that's the question we really want to answer. What is the motivation? How do I
Hmm.
connect? So, what was your motivation? Did you just want to tame the sea, or was it an
Hmm.
adventure? Were you a rebel?
What is your motivation?
Ah, by no stretch of imagination, I'm a rebel. I think I'm not that, definitely. But there is, I think I want to ask her something more and then I'll come to me. Uh, there's this old Indian book called Bhagavad Gita,
Okay.
the mythological book,
Hmm.
which is supposed to be the philosophy of life as well. And in that, Krishna, the god,
Hmm.
he says that you shouldn't worry about the outcome of what you do. You have no right over what the outcome is, you have no control.
Mm.
But you have every control and every right over your journey. And so you just have to, and that's your karma. So you just focus on your karma. And I think maybe she knew, so maybe journey was her destination.
That's so
Yeah.
fascinating. So let
Yeah,
me fall back for a moment because I really want to sing on those words. So you have no control of your outcome, but you do have the rights to control your journey,
that's right.
and that's the karma. So
Yes.
that's what like karma, because all karma, maybe in the Western society, like the word karma is like misused, but whenever it comes like into place, it's always about, oh, you're gonna get some bad karma. It's something that goes around back to
Yeah.
you behind your shoulder. You did something bad, that's bad karma back at you.
That's how it's used here. I'm aware, but I don't think that's really the full meaning. It's what you do, what you're meant to do. That's your
Okay,
karma.
that's your karma. So
And
what were you meant to do in this
yeah,
life?
so I think I've done this for more than 30
Hmm.
years now, and I don't think I'm repeating anything. Every morning I feel there's going to be something new, and I'm still excited.
You contradict. It's so beautiful. You exactly contradict like the Nietzsche theory of like eternal recurrence.
Oh, well, yeah,
No, no,
maybe.
but it's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
So yeah, I think I control what I do, and I can make it exciting for
Mm.
myself. I think it's all inside, so that's really what
Absolutely.
I'm supposed to do.
That's a great way to start. Look, one Jerry Seinfeld was asked, "What made you quit the show, Seinfeld, the TV show?"
Yeah.
What was that thing that made you think, okay, this is gonna be the last season. I'm not gonna do it anymore. And he replied, look, it's really important if you are in anything creative to leave something in the tank. and not run the tank dry, because it can never get refilled again. So leave something in the tank that will prepare you on to the next things. So to put in kind of ocean terms, don't dry the ocean and then expect to sail again. Just leave a little bit of water in the ocean. What the thing that makes you do once you complete a job, this is done, but I'm gonna leave something right here because you never know I might come back. Do you operate that way? Do you dry out your tank completely and then you move on and never come back? Or you leave just something for you to come back and say, maybe I can improve these things?
You know, I think the greatest fear I mean, you are a creative person yourself, you would know this, that the greatest fear we have is, will the tank run dry? Right? I mean, I'm going to go tomorrow out there and there's going to be something to do, and where do I draw it out from?
Mm-hmm.
What if my tank runs dry? I mean, that's very profound. And I think it happens to many people. We just saw Trevor Noah, he just stepped out of his daily talk show just last week.
It's true.
And I grew up in a very middle class, high values, simple living kind of a household. And that's how many of us did. And my grandmother used to say that you should never fill yourself so much that you can't take a morsel more. And that's
You can't feed yourself so much that you can't take?
another morsel, another spoonful more.
Oh, okay.
You shouldn't fill yourself so much
Yeah, feed yourself so much
that
that
you
you can take another
can't
spoon.
take one
Yeah.
more spoonful. And I think what she really meant, and I still use this, that you should be so open to filling up.
Hmm.
If there is an experience around me and if I'm full, I'm not open to receiving, it will dry out one day. And I'll not be, I would have forgotten how to receive.
Hmm.
And I would have only remembered how to let go. So I
Right.
think it's both ways. So you shouldn't let your tank run dry, but you shouldn't fill it up so much
That's a
that you're not
great
open to
advice.
receiving. So yes, there is a fear to let it dry, but I
Mm.
think the way I look at it is that, there are people who say that I'm done with something and I want to do something else now. I want to do different things now. But I think in my own case, I keep saying that I want to do it differently now. Even if I'm doing the same thing, let me do it differently. So I keep my own self
So interesting.
amused.
It's fascinating, so for me it has different aspects to it, because for instance, I'm a writer. I've been writing poems since I was a kid. And one of the things that fascinated me the most when you write a poem is like, when do you know when it's time to end the poem? You know when it starts because you have this urge, this desire to put something on paper.
Right.
When does it stop? And I always look at poetry and the act of writing as vomiting, really purging. And I
Purging,
think
yes.
that you feel it when you're gonna have to purge, and you feel it when that sensation has stopped. Somehow you feel it.
Right.
And that's what happened with my poetry. The beginning and the end. There's never something that I planned, but I feel. So maybe bringing to this, it's true. I try sometimes not to leave the tank completely dry, but also I'm driven by this sixth sense that I have, where I feel this is it. This is I can't add any more,
Yeah.
not even a comma to what I wrote anymore. This is done. Yeah, that's interesting.
They say about good design, it's not when you can't add anything more, but it's when you can't remove anything more.
You can't remove anything
It's
more.
just
That's
so.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I think poetry is like that.
Yes, poetry is it can be like that.
Yeah.
Poetry is a very fascinating, complicated matter. The beauty with poetry is it can be whatever you want it to be. When I was at school, growing up with poetry, one of the things I hated the most, it was teacher telling you, interpreting what the author means. And for me, it was such a violence done to the script, to the text. I think poetry is not supposed to be served to you so you know what he or she was thinking when she was writing the poetry. The poetry is only a tool that's given to you to make you feel something. You can feel whatever you want. You just use those words to feel whatever you want. It's not about them, it's about you.
True.
So
So
that's
true.
what I think.
So true.
Okay, this is the first time in 4.5 billion years since Earth was formed that it has been possible for life to move to another planet, to become multiplanetary. It's more than like a transatlantic journey for humankind. This is about finding a new home in the universe. If you were to relocate to Mars right now and leave behind everything that you know as human, would like design be one of the things you would bring with you to the moon? Or will you like start like completely like anew?
Okay, so firstly, you're taking me to the Mars.
I'm taking to Mars, yeah.
Thank you so much because I'm a woman and I'm still going to Mars and not Venus. So thank you for doing that. But I think, what will I carry with me? Okay, so design is as we define it, and I grew up and I studied design in a very post-independent socialist design school, which sort of taught us to solve social problems.
Right.
And it was never meant to be this decoration design or the skin, but it was always supposed to be how you can change the core of something, how you can make something better. So I think design is for problem solving. So if I were to go to Mars, I'll take my experience of so many years of solving problems, my framework of solving the problem, and I'll say, you got a problem, but do you know your ideal scenario? Let's analyze the gap. I have a toolkit, and I'll take you there.
Oh man, I can't believe that's a beautiful pitch. Beautiful way to pitch you, like pitch yourself through like the Mars committee to say, hey, I'm here, I'm a designer.
That's
I would
all
like
I can
to
carry.
help someone.
That's all I
beautiful.
can carry.
Look, during the 1999 Griffith Award, Stanley Kubrick connected across the ocean for his like acceptance speech. I actually remember that day. A few minutes in, he gave a curious interpretation of the Icarus tale. Now, the tale recounts the story of a father and a son who used wings to escape from the island of Crete. Icarus has become better known as the flyer who fell from the sky with the wax wings. And, the wings were made of wax, and so it's like they melted near the sun. Stanley say something that truly twisted the story completely, saying maybe the lesson is not about do not fly too high. The question is, do a better job when making those wings.
Design better wings.
Design better wings. I mean, I found like such a remarkable answer because I would have never this Icarus tale is very, very popular in Italy and very popular in our culture. I never look at the tale that way. I never look at the way that way. And it's a peculiar way of shifting perspective and looking at the problem from an angle that is very original. When was the last time that you actually shift perspective and something that was looked upon from always the same angle that start being looked from a different angle? Like it could be on any personal level,
Yeah. So when the pandemic happened and the first lockdown happened, and let me tell you a little before that. So we are located in Pune, which is not a metropolitan city. You had never even heard of it. It's not the glamorous city. It's not a state capital. It's just a second-tier city. Great weather and good institutes, good universities, good people. We settled there. For many years, Elephant was like one of the early design companies where people would come as a destination company and would join us, young designers. But then they would just fly out. They would go to the corporates, they would go to these network agencies. And well, that's the way it is. And we said, fine, we are this institution. People come and go. That's how it is. And I could never hire people or hold on to people because they had big city ambitions. And when the pandemic happened and we all started working from home, I suddenly realized that I am now completely liberated from this whole thing of geography. I don't need to hold on to people. I don't need to hire from Pune. They can work
That's
from wherever
brilliant.
they want to work. because it works just fine. And I, I mean, that was really the moment where I thought I wasted so many years in not realizing this, and it had to be this pandemic.
Shift in perspective.
So complete shift in perspective. So I now have people working from wherever they want to. If
The pandemic did that.
it did that,
You know,
and
I
yeah.
actually shift perspective recently. I have two daughters. One is 11 and one is 9, and one is 6.
Mhm.
And the 11 years old came to me 3 months ago, and she was like, maybe it was 3 months ago. She was like, "Hey, Dad, like, Papa." She called me Papa, Italian. She's like, "Do you have like $8?" I was like, "What do you need $8 for?" And she was like, and she didn't want to tell me. I was like, "Tell me, I can give you $8. Just tell me what you need it for." And she was
Right.
like, "Well, my avatar doesn't have the hair that I want, so I need like to buy accessory." And I
Wow.
was like, "I can't believe this." And I had like a moment, 5 minutes with myself thinking about, this is crazy. I'm actually giving like $8 to this kid to change the hair of the avatar. but but then I start. It was no different from me going to my mom or my dad and asking like for money either to buy something that would like satisfy me, even from an aesthetical point of view.
Right.
Back then in the 90s, in the 80s, So I start looking at it from a different
Yes.
perspective, and and then when you look at it from a different perspective, even if it seems so far-fetched, the instinct and the need hasn't changed a bit.
That's
It's
so
still a
true.
need
That's so
either
true.
to belong
It's
or
very real. The need is
Yeah.
very real.
yeah. So it's very interesting story, man. Okay, cool. Like the fifth question, this story is about changing your navigation course. And it becomes with the word, come here, I love you, but you just spent the last year and a half making a big piece of junk. You are good, but you should stick to what you know, and it should be personal. These are the words pronounced by John Cassavetes, one of the greatest Hollywood directors, screenwriters. And as a matter of fact, he was talking to Martin Scorsese. It was a young Martin Scorsese. Marty went there to John Cassavetes, saw him like some of the work he did, very, very early work, the first couple of years. And John Cassavetes said this, I love you, but what you just did is just like a big pile of junk. And he told him like to stick to what he knew.
Mhm.
And that's when Martin Scorsese got back to the drawing board and started developing the script of Mean Street. And then it became Martin Scorsese. And I think personally that he hasn't stopped making the same film all over again. He does what he knows. Like Hemingway, advice was like, write what you know, write what you experience. Now, have you ever met a mentor in your life in the design space that truly changed the course of your career? Or maybe say something that made you realize, my boat is going to this direction, maybe I should just go like the other direction.
Okay, so I've not been very fortunate in having great mentors
Mhm.
because we are one of the early designers or design generations in India. So I've not really had that coming there. But uh, they, well, I work with my co-founders who are my batchmates from design school, and we've literally grown up together. And I think we are each other's mentors, sometimes critiques and friends. So I rely a lot on them. But I can think of two incidents. So there's this well-known designer called William Harold Wong from Malaysia. He's also the founder of a consortium called the Design Alliance, and he's brought 13 Asian design consultancies together to just share cultural insights, not a commercial
Right.
venture. So he and I were going to speak at a conference in Hong Kong, and this was a very large conference, parallel sessions, many venues, and we were given a large auditorium with large seating. It was 5 minutes to start, and there was hardly any audience. There were just about 4 or 5 people in a large auditorium, and I kept thinking that they're all going to the parallel sessions, and they don't want to come and listen to us. And I had traveled all the way to Hong Kong, I had prepared, I had rehearsed, and I felt really let down. And I was telling William, you know, what are we doing here? So he told me that, it doesn't matter how many people are sitting out there. if after your talk today, you, if you made a difference, a positive difference to one person in that audience, even that's worth it. So just go out there and do that. It's all right. So I closed my eyes and I took a deep breath and I said, okay, let's do this. And miraculously, in next few minutes, the auditorium was full, which was another story. But I always remember this, that even if I can make a difference to one person with one thought, that's good enough. So I should go out there, show up, say what I have to. And yeah, that really changed my perspective on why I was doing what I was doing. That was one. Another was very interesting. So there's another senior designer from Canada called Robert Peters. And again, we were speaking at a conference and we were just talking about, and he's a great speaker. And I always learn when I go and I see great speakers. So he told me that if you're explaining a very difficult, complex concept or idea to a client or to anybody, to your audience, start with a little story, which is not directly related to the concept. Just start with a story. Just go do a storytelling. What that does is, all of us grew up listening to stories which our parents and grandparents told us. So when somebody tells you a story, you go back to those days without realizing. You go back to a time when life was not transactional. When things were a little happy and light. And after that, if somebody tells you a complex concept or a new idea or a revolutionary idea, you're open to it because you've gone back to the time when you're open to receiving. That's another one. That's something which
That's super
I
interesting
always
now.
will take back with me.
So try with your mind to go back to a time that was very, very simple, very, very
Yes.
natural.
Yes. Happy.
As you do that, take that energy with you and make it like in a way that when the next complex things is gonna come your way, you are
That's
more
right.
able to receive. That's
That's
oh man,
right.
I'm gonna do it. This I'm gonna try to do it.
So-
Thank you so much for this.
Yeah,
This
so
is
these
like
these two
very
I can think of.
interesting. Very interesting. Here's what would happen if the oceans were gone. Without clouds forming over the ocean, rain will be incredibly rare, and the planet will become desert. The sun will continue to pound the equator, turning into a furnace. Greenhouse gases from the world's fires would trap the sun energy. Humans would pack along to Antarctica and eventually die off. Earth-only survivors will be small colony of chemosynthetic bacteria that they are eaten underground. So without ocean, everything else dies. What's the equivalent of ocean in our industry? What's that thing that if we take it and remove it, everything else is gonna die?
Just one thing.
Just one thing.
Can I? Okay, let me try. So I'm a designer, saying that again. I think if we take empathy away, if you don't have empathy as a designer, you can't spot a problem. So you don't feel for anything, and then you are not able to solve it. So if it's just one thing, then it's empathy.
Empathy is my favorite word. I say on this podcast, I can't stop like every time someone pronounces empathy, visualize the I studied Greek and Latin back in school, and so empathy is pathos coming from Greek,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yes.
and such a pathos is just a great word, like
Yeah.
passion, feeling, and like with. It's
Okay,
a beautiful word.
But can I give you one more word?
Yeah, of course.
Because empathy is what leads you to understand the problem, but you need curiosity to solve it in a new way. So that's the second
Without
word.
curiosity and empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you like a little bit of wiggle room of two
All right,
words.
so
Like at
empathy
the end
and
of the day, the ocean
curiosity.
is not just one big word. It's made of like many big things.
Yes.
How about love? I know this sounds like a cliche, but how about love?
I think empathy is.
Do you think
all of
empathy is
that and
love,
more.
or it's just like the causing of love?
I think empathy is love, and another designer called Mauro Porcini. He says he's looking for people who love people. Those are his designers
People who
in
love
Pepsi.
people.
So I think that's what it
That's,
is. I mean, if you don't love people, you're not
yeah,
going to do good for them.
it's awesome. Hey, look, this is the last question. So I know that you just arrived 24 hours, so it kind of seems unfair for me to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
But let's try if we can make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, normally as soon as you land in Vegas, and this is like your first 24 hours
Yes.
in Vegas,
Little over 24.
little
I
over
arrived
24
2 days
hours.
back.
I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
believe that, memories start forming,
Yes.
right? Even though you arrive now, you're probably going to leave like in a few days.
Right.
But this is a question I asked all the like jury presidents, like at the London International Awards. The day you're gonna leave Vegas and come back to India, like, you're gonna pack your suitcase, like, among this memory that they are like forming, like pick like two of them and put it like in your carry-on and your luggage. Which one goes where and why?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I haven't formed enough
Yeah, you haven't
memories.
formed enough.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not really fair to ask you this question, but
Okay, but okay. So what will I carry with me or carry case, which eventually wouldn't matter, right? I mean, that's what you mean, right?
yes,
What you
you
carry
you
on
know, it's
your.
like, it seems strange, but you are one of the few that actually got it right. Well, there is no right or wrong, but normally people don't go there immediately. They like, start thinking about you so simple. Say, yeah, of course, carry on is what matters because they're gonna lose my luggage anyway. It's like it maybe happened to you, but
Yes.
exactly when I
It's
wrote the
happened to all of
question,
us.
exactly when I wrote the question, I was exactly thinking about this. I was like, you only put in your carry on what you think is never gonna get lost because it's
Right.
with you.
Right. Yeah. So whatever is going to get lost, I'll tell you that first. I think it's the opulence and it's
The
the
opulence.
excess. It's the excess of everything, the excess on chandeliers and the slot machines and the neons and the carpets and the mosaic and wallpapers and gold and all of that. I think that's the excess. So I
Right.
think I'll leave the excess out.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it, I've soaked it in, but I don't
Right.
want to keep it with me. And what I want to keep with me is interesting because yesterday, as the jury began and we started asking questions about what's the framework, how would you like us to do this, and I think the LIA team was very, very generous.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's up to you, it's open, and I think for an award that's so well known and so global, for them to sort of be so generous and tell the jury president that take it as you want it. So I think the generosity of this award is what I would like to keep.
That's
with me.
beautiful.
So yeah.
Look, I have to say, you have a certain kind of tempo and cadence, even in speaking, very, very quiet, very, very calm, very relaxing, like somehow, like the opposite of who I am. But thank you so much for like letting me cross your ocean and just like take a peek into your life. It was very, very, very beautiful.
Thank you so much. Your questions were very fascinating.
Thank you.
you. Made me think so much. Thank you.
Love your story. You like your culture is so spiritual.